can I just take this moment to thank each and every one of you amazing supporters. This channel has grown into an amazing community of story lovers. I could not have done it without you guys. If you haven't yet subscribed, then please be part of this journey and help us reach new heights. Thank you. Renting a too-good-to-be-true Airbnb for our annual girls' weekend getaway honestly should have set off more red flags looking back. But the booze cruise we had planned from that charming coastal town seemed just the relaxing reset we needed from real-world worries, you know. However, our bargain beach house hideaway delivered chilling surprises instead. Pulling up to the ornate Victorian property right off the surf, we all gushed excitedly about the elegant architecture, private patio leading to the sand, and how spacious the place looked in photos. The host had raved about recent upgrades and renovations in her bubbly messaging too. Sounded like the perfect backdrop for making memories. So when we stepped inside to find most of the interior totally gutted down to the studs, confusion washed over our buzz real quick. Had wires gotten crossed about which unit we actually rented or something? The host's perky profile pic didn't exactly scream negligent slumlord. Poking around slowly, we discovered that only half the rooms matched the bright online listing images. The other spaces remained barren construction zones pending fixes that clearly weren't gonna happen pre-guests. Weirdest thing was how an elaborate basement level showed on the floor plan too, but 0 stairs existed to access it. Still determined to make the best of this bait and switch situation, we dumped our stuff in the only finished bedroom suite. Its whimsical beach theme and plush amenities perked up spirits again over wine on the patio listening to crashing waves. Until Amy spotted something creepy outside the kitchen window later on. Down an overgrown path through dense foliage sat an ancient-looking shed nearly swallowed by vines. Curiosity lured us to explore the hidden structure once darkness fell. Swatting away spider webs, we gingerly pushed open the creaky door using our phones as flashlights. The crumbling interior looked straight out of a horror movie set. Dusty mason jars lining precarious wooden shelves, rusted gardening tools dangling from the rafters, cobwebs cocooning unidentifiable shapes in the corners. But most unsettling was a massive vintage wardrobe with intricate carvings, and a heavy padlock securing its doors shut tight. Why lock an old cabinet in a shed already claimed by nature and age? As wine buzz washed away our rationale, daring excitement had us plotting to break into the bizarrely sealed storage space. What secrets or treasures might it hold? Our giggling midnight endeavor quickly shifted to shocked silence upon prying open that stubborn lock, though. Peering warily inside, dusty child-sized clothes and toys were piled high as if hastily stashed away decades prior, but dragging the light across its back panel is what elicited horrified gasps. Scrawled desperately onto rotting wood were the faded, etched names of nearly a dozen local kids, along with a cluster of tiny scratch marks. We recoiled in alarmed confusion as hazy historical rumors resurfaced about a deadly era in town long before tourist attractions whitewashed things. Nearly a dozen youth gone mysteriously missing over just a couple years with 0 clues or happy endings, until the abrupt disappearances ceased, leaving the heart-wrenching cold cases buried in time and fearful memories. Finding this ghastly graffiti clue sent us racing back to the beach house, triple-checking locks and Googling like mad for connections. No local records mentioned any shed or walled-off areas matching the space we'd uncovered. Just a slammed door on justice for missing innocents from an age of innocence lost. But later on, while laying tense with unrest in the bedroom, I noticed the floral wallpaper oddly peeling up along one edge. Pulling back the decaying strip revealed chalky bricks and thick coats of plaster where drywall should be. Scrambling out of bed, I grabbed a broom to smash brutally at the wall until a sizable hole gaped open. There behind the crumbling facade sat a cramped hidden room absent from any floor plan. Shadowy and bare except for a lone object draped ominously in yellowed lace. Hands trembling, I slowly unveiled a vintage dollhouse exactingly modeled after this varied beach manner. And inside displayed the chilling piece de resistance. 12 small porcelain figures posed frozen throughout the miniature space. all with agonized faces matching historical descriptions of those stolen children now memorialized in the shed. Vacant eyes peering endlessly across their unclear fate memorialized behind brick and mortar. Horrified, we fled the haunted abode to alert police about the long-buried evil still crying out silently within the walls. Later we overheard cops confirming the host who rented to us didn't match the actual longtime owner. He disappeared years ago despite neighbors protesting the dwelling's unsolved darkness swallowing innocence for decades. No records existed linking that creepy, foreboding shed either, or explaining the lifeless little effigies entombed together in unfathomable misery. The restored rental listing vanished instantly when we tried showing it to police too, almost as if evil had crafted and seeded an intricate trap to snare fresh prey after laying dormant before its time. We eventually found peace again after the hellish ordeal, though leery of tempting darkness through forbidden doors. But sometimes late at night one still hears faint cries echoing through the veil. Stolen souls yearning to play freely again in the haunted spaces justice failed to save. My besties and I were psyched for a getaway weekend when Jess scored us a swanky beach house rental on Airbnb for cheap. Like shockingly lowball cheap for such a bother spot just steps from the ocean. But we were too busy basking in our first #adulting vacay adventure together to worry all cynical-like. We'd soon be sipping sunrises on those white sands grooving carefree to playlist vibes. Well, that's how things were posed to go down before stuff started getting Freddy Krueger freaky. Soon as we rolled up all pumped, something seemed sorta off-kilter. Nothing major I could pinpoint, just weird little details here, and they're almost designed to keep someone uneasy. Like the yard looked way unkempt compared to pics online. Thick dead bushes blocked most first-floor windows and gave shapes mad shadows move around menacing like at night. Gave me hardcore Scooby-Doo haunted mansion visions straight off. Inside was dingy too, despite promises of recent top-to-bottom renovations by the friendly older host guy who called himself Uncle Doug. His combos with Jess over the app had been so overly sweet and accommodating, though. We'd brushed off the bleak vibes as him just falling behind on yard work pre-arrival. No biggie for such a steal price, we figured. First night crashed hard from road trip exhaustion, but day 2 awakened that free spirit wild child energy in forced to seize vacay mode. We cranked some Scissor Sisters while unpacking our suck-cute new coastal threads. Then noticed suitcases definitely not how we left them before passing out. We chalked it up to too much happy juice, making the night of ransacking seem way intense than just messy memory blanks. We'd bounced to the beach, quit for maximum bestie bonding, and bomb Insta pics all Baywatch style-y. But hitting the town that night for Tinder Scout adventures got tricky with spotty cell service. I could have sworn Jess was paying for baller Wi-Fi upgrades here too. But nope, even the house landline was fully Kappa. Waitives, we had our liquid courage cocktails to conquer any club. Stumbling home at 3 a.m. was less cute though, newfound phobias lurking behind every shadow. Swear I heard shuffling in that creepy side yard while fumbling with keys. And could see weird blue glow flickering spooky all ghost orb-like through the living room window over there. But BF shears of support kept my baby's skittish nerves in line till safe inside once more. That night, though, alleged horrid nightmares snatched me from deep RAM cycles. Kept envisioning Uncle Doug's shadowy form twisted demonic-like at the foot of our beds just watching us with his chilling grin. I awoke drenched in icky sweat, heart racing triple time. Had to be stressed hallucinations amplified by crusty old dusty surroundings playing tricks on my buzzed brain though, right? By morning, full chaos mode activated for caffeine and calming sunrise stroll chats. But finding my favorite yoga pants balled up inexplicably drowned any Zen lakeside views real quick. Our festive ladies' vacay spirit was sinking into paranoid gloom faster than my iced mocha. Jess reassured us all haunted vibes were all coincidence blown out of proportion after too much crazy fun. Her optimistic mental reset eased nerves enough by twilight to venture out dancing again. This time fully recharged, sober to monitor any weirdness with clear eyes. Few hours in, Jess suddenly gasped, grabbing my arm tight. She showed me her phone gallery pulled up, filled with sneak pics of us sleeping days before. Close-up shots perfectly framing each bed to see braless forms fully exposed from intruding night vision lenses. Her hand flew up to muffle a horrified scream building. Then movement at the far dark end of the club yanked our attention. Squinting toward the shadows, disbelief gripped my racing pulse to see Uncle Doug himself staring right back smirking. Our vulnerable leaked images illuminating his lecherous faces inches from his curled palm. Fury burning in those bulging eyes at getting busted himself instead. Frantically bolting for the exit past swarms of confused dancers, panicked cries rang out. We glimpsed Doug's heaving form staggering behind in awkward pursuit before suddenly collapsing face first to the sticky floor. The staff bouncer yelled calling 911 as patrons gawped, stunned at the collapse drama, but we three kept racing, straight to the nearest police station. Hours wasted breathlessly pleading for squad cars to storm that creepster's lair yielded frustrating dead ends. Cops said the Airbnb listing was a scam using stolen home pics that didn't match any area rental properties, and Uncle Doug's credentials were faked accounts tracing back to untraceable black holes. No grounds for raids over hearsay cyber entertainment rights and regs. We left the useless station hollowed out and shaken to the core. All our vulnerable secrets and private unfiltered lives had been harvested by some faceless phantom without consent. Were those sickos' private spank bank images circulating the dark web's ravenous wolves even now salivating for more cruelty exhibitionism clicks? The targeted trauma sunk bone deep. None of us dared photograph ourselves unclothed again for long periods after not even alone. Constant anxiety of hacker peeping Toms still hovered at the back of minds. Who knew how long that creep Uncle Danny, or whatever his name was, had been obsessively monitoring unaware victims from the shadows before we unknowingly crossed lenses to feed his twisted voyeur mission. Sometimes at friends' houses, I still glimpse opaque dark bubbles in corners of kitchen counters or bedroom ceilings, and flinch hard wondering what malevolent eyes mine those invasive portals from the other side. Me and my boys Tyler and Aiden were hyped for a guy's getaway weekend when Ty scored us this killer man cabin rental on Airbnb way up in the sticks. We're talking serious bear country vibes. No neighbors for miles, no Wi-Fi or cell signal, just off-grid bro time with enough beer and beef jerky to weather any winter party storm. Or so we stupidly thought before that backcountry bachelor pad became our own personal snowbound nightmare scenario. Rolling up the long, winding driveway after getting lost only twice thanks to my flawless navigating skills. Love you outright. We were stoked to leave society in the rear view for a few days. The cabin was even more awesome than Pixelon 2. We're talking full smoky log lodge grandpa chic filled with mounted deer heads, comfy plate everything, and a huge stone fireplace framed by floor-to-ceiling windows looking out at the snowy pines. We toasted our sweet escape with some cold ones before stepping out back to the patio, so I could snap the money shot of Aiden chugging brews while riding the taxidermied moose. But that's when a freak Arctic blast came barreling through the mountains without warning. Seriously, inside 60 seconds, the gentle flurries whipped into complete whiteout conditions with winds that almost swept poor scrawny Aiden away. Barely made it back inside the creaky door without turning into snowmen ourselves. By then, nearly 2 feet had already piled up outside the glass. There'd definitely be no more running down to the Jeep for reinforcements, so we were suddenly forced to make our initial beer stash and snack haul last indefinitely. At first, we just laughed it off all casual-like, cranking those antique radiators to defrost while demolishing nachos and playing drunken ping-pong tourneys. We'd weathered worse storms together back on campus after all. But soon the ominous rattle and groan of heavy snow accumulation on that old roof started harshing our chill. Scary AF whenever frigid wind gusts threatened to shatter the windows with an icy blast, for real thought we were gonna get buried alive and preserved in some archaeological Frosty the Snowbread disaster. To make matters more ominous, every device we had quickly lost signal once the storm kicked into overdrive. 0 bars meant our bored bro banter updates, and desperate pleas for emergency airlifts went fully ignored by the outside world. For all civilization knew we'd already frozen to death out there in the godforsaken tundra. Our inevitable cannibalism was the next logical step before getting this party back on track again clearly. But determined to maintain morale and avoid snacking on Aiden's scrawny limbs as long as possible, we committed to embracing the forced primitive frontier life in true rustic lumberjack fashion. We even crafted makeshift snowshoes to mount a valiant effort towards reaching the nearest ranger station 10 miles down the mountain at first light. though honestly by then we had already crushed enough liquid courage to keep spurts buzzing brightly through the end days battle with Vorenema Organ. Later on, using flashlight embers to navigate the shadowy cabin interior, we told ghost stories while huddled under musty wool blankets by the weakening fire's glow. Then swore we heard an eldritch howl echo outside that definitely didn't sound anything like wolves or coyotes normally core. Things got even more bizarre when Ty noticed the mounted deer heads on walls had turned to directly face us, almost like their lifeless glass eyes were spying as immoral servants for some darker forest forces. But before full panic mode activated, Aiden spotted a strange, unmarked hatch built into the floor underneath old moth-eaten bear skin rug. This mystery trapdoor hadn't been featured on the rental site either, so instantly we grew rowdy with curiosity speculations. Torching the lock off with our dwindling embers, a rickety wooden staircase descended pitch black into the foundations below. Claustrophobic air wafted up, humid and heavy with odd mineral notes. We crept downward slowly by dying firelight, senses increasingly overwhelmed by the potent scent of copper, and something else familiar yet unplaceable. Reaching the bottom, flickers finally illuminated the source, and we recoiled in stunned revulsion. Lining crumbling stone walls were decades, if not longer, worth of partially butchered skeletal remains. Not animal bones caught by desperate trappers as first assumed, but contorted human forms in various states of macabre mutilation. The only intact cadaver lay ominously fresh on a central carving table, flesh still gleaming wet and reddish. Wait, was that a moose tattoo on its severed arm? We glanced back sickly to the mounted trophy from our ironic joke pic just hours ago. Its fur seemed brighter now, more realistic upon this hellish revelation. No words uttered as we bolted back up the rickety staircase in crazed self-preservation, slamming those warped wooden doors against ancient cries, trailing us in baleful fury. Hunkering behind lodgings barricades through the haunted night, we saw bloody sigils start appearing like vile magic to taunt trapped prey, and heard phantom footsteps circling with increasing fervor as evil claimed the mountainscape. At first light, we braved one final foolhardy escape plunge into the icy unknown, but frostbite and delirium soon weakened our resolve, the advancing storm no longer feeling like the greatest threat lurking within those timeless trees. As our snow prison stretched toward endless silence, we wondered who else may find those gory remains once the long winter relinquished its ruthless grasp, and would fresh young souls be lured again to ignorantly wander the next blizzard season into that endless off-season feeding ground the sacred pines conceal. Thanks for listening in. If you like these stories and want to hear more, then please subscribe and like and support this new channel. We have more stories for you to listen to.